Here's our light Tai Chi warm-up, broken up into sections so you can do as much as you have the time and inclination for on any given day. I'm going to start with the basic posture, thinking of gliding the chin slightly back, feeling the crown lift, releasing the spine, the shoulders, the hips down. And then we're going to slightly sag back into our casual posture, assuming that our casual posture is a little less than ideal. So from the side, that looks like the chin neither up nor down, in the middle, gliding a little bit back, feeling some lift up through the back of the neck, up through the crown of the head, and ideally some lifting and spreading of the back, sinking of the shoulders, spreading the palms, and then relaxing back out of it. I want to do it with as little stiffness, as little force as possible. Notice that when the crown rises and the back spreads and lifts, the center of the chest feels gently enclosed by the outer body. And also that movement rolls down the spine, helping me to drop my tailbone under the body a little bit, open the low back, gently flattening that lumbar curve. The knees and hips are both slightly flexed, a little soft. And as the chin comes back, I may feel my body tipping slightly forward from my hips, never from my waist. Just a kind of counterbalance. Chin in, hips back a little bit. Feeling the weight's very even on the feet, toe to heel and inside of each foot, inside to outside. And so the four sides of each foot, receiving the weight about evenly. Might feel a little lift in the arches of the feet, activation of the inner legs. After just a few of those, I'm going to stay with the slightly retracted head position, that long spine, the slightly posteriorly tilted pelvis. Now I'm just going to look up a little bit and try to maintain that feeling. The chin still gliding back a little bit as I look up. And then as I look down, the same idea. So I still feel that lift up through the crown of the head throughout the range of motion. It's not a big neck movement. And I never feel like my head is falling backward or falling forward. Always releasing my weight down through the torso, the legs, the arms. Feel how the pull or stretch in the front of the throat is very gentle. It starts to reach down through the collarbones, through the chest, and down through the whole body, very light and even. So while only my upper spine is really moving, I can feel that subtle tug or pull on the soft tissue right down the front of the body. Same thing in the back. Pulling down the back gently. When the front is open, the back is slightly shortened and gathered together. When the back is open, the front is a little shortened. If I want to expand the feeling of movement in the chest, I can turn the palms forward, spread the fingers, and as the center of the chest spreads out, opens up a little bit, so do my palms. And looking down, as that gathers inward, the hands cup slightly, turning to the back, so they mirror one another. Chest center, the two palms, and perhaps even feeling something similar happening in the feet. Soles of the feet spreading out, the toes spreading a little bit as I look up, and gathering in as I look down. Ideally, I should be breathing right through this movement. I can breathe in time with it as long as it's very slow. Inhale when I'm looking up, exhaling, looking down, or I can, as my breath slows down even a little bit more, I can continuously inhale through a few cycles of the movement, and then I can continuously exhale through it. But either way is fine. But generally, a slower breath is what we're looking for. Feeling the breath start to drop into the abdomen, or it feels a little concentrated. Pausing in the center, we'll do a little side bending. The same basic head carriage, chin back, crown up, shoulders sinking, dropping away. The hips, especially the back of the hips, sinking down. Feel how we lengthen one side of the body and gather the other, so we feel a kind of exchange between the two sides. Shorter side, the gathered side is in. The lengthened, stretched out side is yang. They just alternate. Relax, especially down through the shoulder and the opposite hip, away from the bend. So as I bend here towards the B side, the A side is where I'm really putting my attention, try to release that hip and shoulder down. The weight's basically even on the feet, but I may feel a subtle shift in the support between the 2 feet. And now combining those 2 ranges of motion, just going to circle my head and neck gently. Or it may be even a little bit more of a challenge to keep that chin gently retracted, keep that lift up through the crown of the head throughout the movement. Keep the weight dropping down through the body, through the legs and feet. Pausing in reverse. Head carriage is so essential that I'm going to start there, and if nothing else, I'm always going to do some warm up with head carriage and noticing how it affects the spine all the way down the whole body. Similarly, I can turn out to one side. My weight's going to go a little bit to my back leg. Front foot's going to turn out diagonally. And looking down, gather the front line of the body again. Lift the toes, palms are forward, lift the fingers. And then look up, slight extension back, fingers coming back, and lift the heel. Down, toes up, look up, heel up. Here again, I can feel that exchange, gathering in all the front planes of the body, arms, legs, torso, and then extending back. As the front lengthens, the back gathers. As the back lengthens, the front gathers. The movement of the head and neck work their way down through the torso, not bending at the waist at all, but I can feel, again, that light, gentle tug on the soft tissue, reaching fairly down, far through the body. Then I can turn the toes in towards my center line, and the palms still facing forward. The fingers tip in to the side this way, little finger leading, and I'm looking down. That's an in movement. Toe out, fingers out to the side, looking up, that's a yang movement. Still that exchange between the outer back plane of the body and the inner front plane. Exchange between the outer leg and inner leg. The back leg that I'm standing on, the knee and hips need to stay soft, slightly bent. If I can drop the tailbone under, open up the lower back, all the better. And then the sole of the foot in, the palms in, that's looking down. Turning the sole and palms out, that's looking up. Same movement of the head and neck, working down through the spine, feeling it down through the trunk, getting the whole torso warmed up. As the movement from the ankles and wrists work up through the limbs into the torso till I feel like every part of the body is involved. And again, if I can, take a nice relaxed, slow breath and just breathe through the movement. I do that. Now I'm going to circle my knee. Heel is up off the floor a little bit, making a nice generous circle, which is going to work my ankle and my hip as well. And the hands are going to combine all those ranges of motion, turning up and down and circling around. I'll leave the head and neck out of the movement for now. Keep it simple. Still sitting on that back leg. And then reverse. And then I'll do the whole thing on the other side. Flexion, extension, toes up, toes down. Palms are facing forward, fingers up, fingers back. Working from the outside towards the center of the body. That standing leg, keeping the hip and knee a little flexed, helps keep my hip right over my heel, not swinging out to the side. I want to make sure there's no twist in that leg. Just a nice, easy rhythm. Toe in and toe out. Soul in, eyes a little down, palms up and out. Yin movement looking down, yang movement looking up. Feel that exchange between the inner planes and the outer planes of the body. Circle. Circle the knee, the ankle, the hip, circle the wrists, and back the other way. Looking for a nice fluid round movement in the knee, ankle, and hip joints, wrist up to the elbow. And then we'll shake out a little bit. Let's sink one shoulder down and lift the other. And then reverse. Sort of like a balance scale. One arm drops, the other rises. As I lift the shoulder, I really try to relax and sink through the upper back, the base of the neck, what we consider the upper shoulder area, just the outer shoulder rising up. As that happens, feel how it opens and lifts the ribs on that side, even down through the flanks. Again, I have an exchange between two sides of the body. One side opening, moving, the other side gathering, consolidating, shortening. I can even let that extend to the feeling of the hand. As that arm rises, the hand gathers in. The arm that's sinking down, release down through the fingertips. Almost like I'm lifting up, just making sure that doesn't encourage me to stiffen up and hike up that shoulder too much. Chin is in, crown is rising, back is open, chest center is gently held within the body shape, not with any force, not collapsing or sinking. The weight and the breath sink down through the lower body. Let's separate the shoulder blades, bring the shoulders a little to the front, and then gather them together. Making space between them, and really opening, separating the chest. And then I'm going to circle one shoulder forward and up, back and down, combining those ranges of motion. Again, that area in close to the neck, trying to keep it sinking and relaxed as that shoulder rises. If I feel a little change in the shape of the hand, all the better. It's not absolutely necessary. Pause and then reverse, back and up, forward and down. Feel how the shoulder muscles connect down through the ribs, down even through the mid and lower back. In between the shoulder blades, up through the neck, into the center of the chest. Shoulders cover most of the torso. Other shoulder forward and up, back and down. By dropping the tailbone under, keeping the knees and hips soft, keep that feeling of the weight dropping down. I don't lift my shoulder and then lift my weight and my breath and feel top heavy. The breath and the weight are sinking down, settled more in the lower body. The quality of the breath that I feel in the chest is very light and free. Not too full or stuffy. And reverse, back and up and forward and down. Still in about a body width stance, I'm going to place my hands on my lower back, feeling the curvature of my lower back under my palms there. And then as I tuck the tailbone under, feeling how the lower back becomes full, gently expands or presses into my hands, try to keep the shoulders relaxed. And then as I untuck and let the backside stick out, that deep curve comes into my lower back and it falls in. Tucking and untucking. A generous range of motion, but trying not to force it, not using undue strength, not tensing up too much. And noticing how the tuck and untuck of the tailbone automatically changes the shape of my lower back. As well as sort of pushing down through my legs. I may feel the feet spreading and flattening out a little bit, and then the arches returning and some lift, almost like a suction cup. But I'm keeping my knees a little bit bent the whole time. Even the hips are staying a little bit bent, so I'm never rising up straight all the way. Then I'm going to try to sink one hip down, bending the knee, and then sink the other knee and hip and let the opposite side rise. Similar to what we did with the shoulders. The more I can let the tailbone drop under the body so that I'm in that slightly tucked position, but without any feeling of tensing or holding it that way, the easier it may be to find this range of motion. And then I'm going to tuck and lift one hip, untuck, lift the other hip, and make it into a circle, combining those two movements. Feeling again that the lower back flattens out, and then the curve returns, and the feet feel as if they're pedaling the floor, one knee moving and then the other. Pause and then reverse that movement. The head still just floating back and up. Even with my hands on the lower back, trying to relax and sink my shoulders. Breath smooth, relax and deep, slow. Now I'm going to take a slightly wider step. I can just step out, or I can turn my toes out and then bring my heels out. Sit down a little bit deeper. A wider stance is a deeper stance. If I'm dropping my tailbone under the body, I'll feel the thighs open up into a rounded arch with my knees close to right above my feet. And the weight even, toe to heel, inside and outside of each foot again. I'm going to push the hips forward, keeping the head in the center, and push the hips back. Trying to keep that gently underslung feeling. The tailbone dropping under the body, the lower back nice and straight, but relaxed, loose, full, and stable. Relaxed and loose, full, and stable sound like they should be opposites, but as we find the posture more and more easily, feel how they really go together when we're talking about the lower back. The head stays in the center as the hips swing forward and back, again, opening the back of the body and then opening the front of the body, another kind of exchange. Not just those outer planes of the body, but gradually bringing my attention deeper, feeling a deeper movement through the center of the abdomen. Side to side, same sort of idea. Head stays in the center. Tailbone stays dropping under the body. Knees stay soft and bent. One side lengthen, open, the other side gathered in, shortened, plain. Listening for some feeling moving from the outer tissues, including the joints, the hip movement, into the deeper abdomen, even if I don't feel it at first. Just remembering to listen for it, and then combining those ranges of motion in a big circle. Eventually developing the feeling that the ball is sort of rolling through the abdomen very deeply, a sense of fullness or weight, traveling around in time with that outer movement. Again, breathing, nice, slow, deep, relaxed breath, not particularly timed with the movement. Pausing in the center and then reverse. And pausing in the center again. Back to a body width stance. Find the basic posture. And then turning just the head. Right on top of the neck, a small turn. The eyes can lead a little bit, or they can just ride along with that small head movement. Finding that I can do that rotation just under the base of my head, just the topmost portion of the neck. And letting the posture stabilize the rest of the body, not holding it stiffly, but that chin in, head up feeling, just keeping everything nice and stable. And then I can work, twist down a little bit deeper through the neck, feeling like the twist is coming from the top down, reaching the base of the neck. And from there, reaching into the upper chest, right under the collarbones, the upper breastbone, front of the shoulders, the back of the shoulders, the upper back, just above the shoulder blades. And then still working from the top down, getting in between the shoulder blades. Getting into the middle of the chest a bit. Keeping the knees, the hips soft, letting the tailbone sink under. Down below the shoulder blades, through the ribs, the lower ribs, the uppermost part of the abdomen, solar plexus area, right inside the rib space in the center. Down through the mid-back and into the back of the waist. Flanks. Finding a speed that's really comfortable, right? Maybe slowing it down if it feels a little awkward and move too quickly. And we don't have to do the whole series all the way down the body. Right? When you feel like you're done, you're done. As long as it's comfortable and you have the time, you can keep working down through the lower back, through the abdomen, the top of the pelvis, top of the hip bones, the back of the pelvis, the sacrum, sacroiliac joint, down through the lower pelvis and the hips, the hip joints, the upper thighs. Still letting the weight sink down and keep the lower legs stable until we're ready to let the lower thighs and the knees get in on the twist. Each turn may take a little longer since I'm working from the top all the way down sequentially, trying not to skip any part. Trying not to miss, say, the upper back part or the area between the shoulder blades, which are a little harder to feel that twist. It's easy to skip over spots. And then finally down through the knees, the shins, calves, getting into the ankles, which will involve the tops of the feet. But trying to keep the weight still even on the feet. I'll feel a little change, a little play in the weight bearing on the soles of the feet, but approximately even. The feet not rolling in or out as I twist. Coming back to the center. And just shake out the arms and legs again. Shake the head a little bit. We're going to finish this warm up by just turning the palms back, and the knees are very slightly soft, relatively upright, but always a little flexion at the knee and the hip, tailbone dropping under. That feeling of tipping the body forward, balancing that floating back and up with the head. Feel the weight drop right through the center of the body, through the legs, through the center of the feet. Looking down slightly to turn my palms back, meaning looking down to open and round the back a little bit. Palms slightly spread, but fingers together, a little like two paddles. And we're going to let the arms swing back and forth. I'm pushing the air back behind me, even front to back. Gently stabilizing the posture against that swing. Same strategy, chin in, crown up, open the back, sink the shoulders. Drop the tailbone under the body, sitting into the hips and knees very slightly. Feeling the feet, how they both spread out a little bit and also almost grasp the floor, not just the toes, but the whole foot like a suction cup, but without any stiffness. You might feel a little alternation between that spreading out and pressing and that lifting and suction cup feeling of the arches gathering the foot. Keeping the body stable, but nothing stiff. So every part of the body feels like it's moving slightly with that swing. Maybe not visibly on the outside, but as the arms swing back, I can feel how it pulls across the chest, even the abdomen. Feel those changes in the thighs. As I said, down through the lower leg and the feet. Palms a little flatter when they're swinging back. I'm pressing the air, slightly more rounded as they swing to the front. Maybe feeling that coordination between the chest center spreading out, the palms spreading out, the feet spreading out, and then everything, those 5 centers gently gathered inward again. Not something I necessarily have to do consciously. Trying to let it happen and be spontaneous. And then we can let the arms swing to a stop. And that's our first lighter set of warm-ups. Again, we don't have to do the whole thing. You can pick and choose a little bit.